She stepped in without thinking, risking her own safety to protect a boy she didn't even know, unaware that watching from the shadows was a billionaire ready to change her life forever. The evening crowd at Mason's diner buzzed with the usual noise, clinking plates, low conversations, the occasional burst of laughter from the corner booths. Ava Morgan, 26, moved between tables with a practiced smile and tired feet, balancing trays and pocketing tips she knew wouldn't be enough to cover next month's rent. She lived her life in quiet survival mode. No time for dreams. No room for anything beyond the next shift, the next bill. But that night, everything changed. The commotion started just outside the diner's wide front window. Raised voices, a scuffle, a boy's cry muffled by jeering laughter. Ava looked up mid-order and froze. Across the street, a small boy, maybe 9 years old, stood cornered by 3 older teens. His clothes were torn. His backpack lay open on the sidewalk, books and scraps of paper scattered around him. Without thinking, Ava dropped her tray, bolted for the door, and raced into the night. "Hey!" she shouted, her voice sharp with anger she didn't even know she had. "Leave him alone!" The teenagers sneered at first, but when they saw Ava charging across the street, fearless and furious, they backed off, laughing as they melted into the night. Breathless, heart pounding, Ava knelt beside the boy. His lip was bleeding. One of his shoelaces was broken. But more than that, he looked invisible, like he had expected no one to come for him. "You okay, buddy?" she asked softly, brushing dirt from his hair. The boy nodded stiffly, swallowing hard to keep the tears back. "What's your name?" "Lucas," he whispered. "Come on, Lucas. Let's get you cleaned up." She stood, offering him her hand without a second thought. Behind them, in the dark corner of the diner's parking lot, someone watched silently. Nicholas Grant, 41. Billionaire. Real estate tycoon. CEO of Grant Ventures. Known for building empires. Feared in boardrooms. But tonight, he wasn't thinking about profits or negotiations. He was watching a young woman put herself between danger and a defenseless boy, without cameras, without credit, without hesitation. And for the first time in years, Nicholas saw the kind of courage he couldn't buy or teach, the kind of courage he desperately needed to lead his next venture. Ava had no idea as she led Lucas into the diner, offering him a milkshake and gathering first aid supplies, that by morning, her name would be sitting at the top of a billionaire's offer letter. And her life would never look the same again. Inside the warm, greasy, sweet air of Mason's diner, Ava carefully cleaned the cut on Lucas's lip with a damp napkin. He winced but didn't pull away. She slid a chocolate milkshake across the counter toward him, adding a few extra fries from her own dinner plate without saying a word. "You don't have to pay," she said gently when he hesitated. The boy stared at the food like he didn't quite believe it was real. Ava's heart broke a little more. "Where's home, Lucas?" she asked softly. His eyes dropped to the counter. "Don't got one," he mumbled. Ava swallowed hard. No foster parent waiting. No warm bed. No safe place to run to after being chased down and knocked around. Across the room, Nicholas Grant continued to watch in silence. He had meant to finish his coffee and leave unnoticed. He had meant to stay detached. He always stayed detached. But the more he watched Ava, the harder it became. She didn't just feed the boy. She sat with him, listened to him, made him laugh with silly faces drawn in ketchup on a napkin. She didn't treat him like a burden or a case to fix. She treated him like he mattered. Nicholas wasn't a stranger to broken systems. He had built housing initiatives, funded charities, donated to causes. But what he saw tonight wasn't charity. It was humanity. And it was rare. When Lucas finally nodded off in the booth, exhaustion pulling him under, Ava draped her thin denim jacket over his shoulders and quietly asked the cook if he could stay for the night until social services could be called. The cook, a gruff man named Pete, nodded without hesitation. "You're a good kid, Ava," he said quietly. "Just doing what anyone should," she murmured, tucking Lucas in with a clean towel like a blanket. But Nicholas knew. Not just anyone would. By the time Ava finally slid into a booth across the room, rubbing her aching feet and sipping a cold coffee, Nicholas had made up his mind. He pulled out a card from his wallet, thick, simple, no flashy logos, and placed it neatly on the table as he stood. Ava looked up, startled. "You didn't have to—" "I know," he said, smiling slightly, "but I want to." She picked up the card, reading, "Nicholas Grant, CEO. Grant Ventures" beneath it, a handwritten note. "Come by this address tomorrow at noon. Bring nothing but yourself. Let's talk about a future bigger than you think." Ava blinked in confusion. By the time she looked up again, Nicholas was already gone, slipping out into the night like a ghost. She stared down at the card, her pulse pounding in her ears. She had no idea yet that her act of defending a boy no one else would stand up for had opened a door she never even knew existed. And behind that door was a destiny far greater than the tired life she thought she was stuck living. The next day, Ava stood outside a gleaming glass tower in downtown, Grant Ventures headquarters, nervously clutching the simple business card. She wore her best and only clean outfit: faded black pants, a wrinkled blouse, and sneakers worn almost through at the soles. People in tailored suits rushed past her without a glance. She swallowed hard. "What am I doing here?" she thought. But something deeper, the same instinct that made her run into the street to defend a boy she didn't know, pushed her forward. She stepped inside. The receptionist greeted her with a warm, almost knowing smile. "Ms. Morgan, Mr. Grant is expecting you." Before she could even process that someone here knew her name, a sleek elevator opened, and Ava found herself rising toward the top floor. Her heart hammered in her chest. Nicholas Grant was waiting for her in a conference room filled with sunlight. No suit, no intimidating entourage, just him. Casual shirt, rolled-up sleeves, a quiet smile. Ava hovered awkwardly near the door. "Please," Nicholas said, motioning to a chair. "Sit." She perched on the edge of the leather seat, clutching her worn backpack like a shield. Nicholas slid a thick folder across the table toward her. "I watched what you did last night," he said calmly. "You didn't just step in when it was dangerous. You stayed. You cared. You protected." Ava flushed. "Anyone would have done the same?" Nicholas leaned forward. "That's where you're wrong, Ava. Most people would have turned away, pretended not to see. You didn't. You acted. And that's exactly what I need." He pushed the folder closer. Inside, an official employment contract, a 6-figure salary offer, full executive benefits. Title, CEO, Grant Community Outreach Initiative, a new project aimed at creating safe spaces and educational programs for vulnerable kids across the country. And scrawled across the first page, effective immediately. Ava stared, stunned. I don't have a college degree. I don't know anything about being a CEO." Nicholas smiled. "You know everything that matters. You know how to see people, how to fight for them, how to lead from the heart. The rest? We can teach you." Tears blurred Ava's vision as she clutched the papers with trembling hands. For years, she had fought invisible battles, gone unnoticed, forgotten. And now, a stranger had not only seen her bravery, he was handing her the keys to a future where that bravery could change thousands of lives. Nicholas stood and offered his hand. "The question is, Ava, are you ready to build something bigger than yourself?" She stood slowly, wiping her eyes and taking his hand with a fierce, steady grip. "I've been ready my whole life. I just didn't know it." As they shook hands, a new chapter began. Not just for Ava, not just for Lucas, but for every forgotten kid waiting out there in the world, waiting for someone brave enough to see them. But there were challenges ahead. Not everyone would believe a broke waitress deserved a CEO's desk, and the fight to prove herself was only just beginning. The news exploded faster than Ava could catch her breath. Waitress turned CEO overnight. Nicholas Grant's bold move, a heart over resumes. Who is Ava Morgan? The woman changing how leaders are chosen. Some praised her, some doubted her. Some sneered, calling it a publicity stunt or a billionaire's whim. But Ava didn't let the noise in, because she hadn't fought her way through life for approval. She had fought to matter. And now? She was fighting for every kid like Lucas, who still woke up every day feeling invisible. Her first board meeting was a disaster in every textbook sense. Suits lined the long mahogany table, skeptical eyes fixed on her thrift store outfit, whispering behind fake smiles. The proposals she carefully prepared were questioned. Her voice trembled at first. But Ava remembered Lucas, his bruised lip, his scared eyes, and she found her strength. "We're not building another charity to polish our names," she said, steady now. "We're building safe places, real ones, places where kids who've been abandoned, hurt, and forgotten can find a second chance." She outlined her vision with brutal honesty. No grand stages, no empty promises, just real solutions. Community centers with food programs and after-school tutoring. Mobile clinics offering free health care. Safe zones staffed with counselors, not security guards. The suits listened. Not because her PowerPoint was perfect, but because her heart was undeniable. Weeks turned into months. The first Grant Heart Center opened in the toughest neighborhood in the city. Inside an abandoned library Nicholas bought and renovated under Ava's command. Hundreds of kids flooded through its doors. Kids who had never set foot inside a safe building without being eyed with suspicion. Kids who finally had somewhere to dream. And Ava? She was there every day, helping with homework, organizing field trips, breaking up playground fights with the same fierceness she had shown outside Mason's diner. But it wasn't just kids who noticed. Parents stopped by, volunteering. Local businesses started donating supplies. Teachers offered free tutoring sessions. Ava's fire had lit a city on fire. Because courage is contagious. And kindness, when wielded without apology, changes everything it touches. One night, as the sun dipped behind the city skyline, Ava sat on the worn stone steps outside the first Grant Hearts Center. Nicholas joined her, 2 sodas in hand. They watched the kids laughing in the courtyard, chasing dreams they hadn't known they were allowed to have. "You know," Nicholas said, cracking open his soda, "most people thought I was crazy when I made you CEO." Ava smiled, bumping her shoulder lightly against his. "Most people still probably do." He laughed. Then he grew serious. But they were wrong. He raised his soda in a toast. "To the waitress who didn't just save a boy, she saved a part of the world that everyone else forgot about." Ava clinked her can against his, a lump forming in her throat. "To the man who gave a girl with nothing the chance to be something?" Today, in the entrance of every Grant Hearts Center, there's a framed photo. Ava Morgan, kneeling beside Lucas on that rainy night, shielding him with nothing but her body and her courage. The plaque underneath reads, "Leadership isn't about power. It's about who you choose to stand up for when no one's looking." Because at the end of it all, it wasn't money that made Ava Morgan a leader. It was the moment she decided that someone else's fight was her own. And in that moment, she didn't just change one boy's life, she changed her own. And she changed the world.